Hello, and thanks for clicking on the video. I'm driving to one of my favorite spots, and so I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you. I received a few emails about police background investigation, specifically the personal history statement, PHS, and also some questions on the process of getting hired in law enforcement. So I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss that, and some of you may not know. The information I'm about to tell you is probably not located in any books, but you need to know. First of all, when you apply to a law enforcement agency, any type of job nowadays, they require you to go through a background investigation, and you will have to fill out a 27 to 30 page document called a PHS. It stands for Personal History Statement. The PHS basically will ask you your personal information, height, weight, your date of birth, your driver's license number, and it'll ask you for some references, to list some references. It includes everything. It includes your drug history, your criminal history, any discipline at the school. In some of my previous videos, I mentioned that it includes the income, like what is your credit history type of thing, and if you want more information about that, definitely go back to those prior videos. When you apply to a law enforcement agency, usually the first step is the physical exam. And so, that means you have to run around the track, you'll have to do the dummy drag, jump over a wall. Different agencies have different specs on those type of tests. Assuming you pass the physical, if it requires a physical, then you move over to a written exam. And if you want to study for that written exam, I mentioned this before, the Barnes & Noble bookstore has a test section. And in that test section, you'll find all types of entry-level law enforcement jobs for corrections, police work, sheriffs, California High Patrol, etc. And then after you go through that written exam, the next step is the interview. And I received a few emails about this. And if you haven't already done this, I encourage you to do that at home when you're by yourself. Look at a mirror, sit down and look at a mirror that you can see yourself talking, and try to explain, for example, what are your strengths and weaknesses. It's one of the most common questions that will arise during these law enforcement interviews. Tell us about some of your strengths and your weaknesses. And so try to speak clearly. You want to stand up straight. You want to grab your hands and keep them close to your waist so they're not flying around. You want to have good eye contact, so when you're getting interviewed, your eyes are not looking at the ceiling, you're looking at the person asking you the question. You want to make sure you understand the question before you start to respond. If you don't understand the question, definitely say, hey, can I get you to repeat the question? Interviews are tricky. I mean, I've gone through a lot of them when I was trying to get into law enforcement. You go into these rooms, sometimes there'll be people playing good guy, bad guy, and one person will be really mean to you, the other two people are nice, or there'll be two people from the police department, one is mean to you, one is nice. Then you'll have somebody from the city hall, usually the human resources department. And so don't take it personal if you go in there and they're insulting you, or they say something like they may ask you a question, what do you know about this position? And if you say, I don't know much about this position, then don't be insulted if they come back with a follow-up saying, then what are you doing here? And a lot of you may kind of be taken back by that, and it's like, whoa, I can't believe that person just told me that. But you do need to prepare for the interview. To give you an idea, when I first got hired with a large police agency, there weren't that many jobs. They only had 5 openings during when I applied, and I believe 1,500 people applied, and only about 600 or less passed the written exam. And so then we were all competing for 5 positions, and I was fortunate enough to get one of those 5 jobs and did really well in the department. But I researched the department. I went down to the city hall, and there's a public document called the city's annual report, and you can peruse through there to find out what the police department is working on, what kind of projects they just completed, what are some of the community outreach programs that are taking place to improve the relationship between the police department and community. I mean, there's a lot of information out there available for you before you go into the interview. so that during the interview, when they ask you the question, what do you know about this job, or what do you know about our agency, you'll be able to offer some information. I highly recommend you go on some ride-alongs. Pick a newer officer, not an older officer that's been there too long. If you're a female, I highly encourage you to ride with a female officer to get a better feel for what she has gone through in the hiring process, some of the obstacles that it took to get there, etc. So anyway, let's move on past the interview. We passed the interview. You then meet with a background investigator. The background investigator wants you to turn in the completed personal history statement, 27-page document. I will tell you that once you complete that document, make sure you make a copy of it before you turn it in to the police agency that you're applying for. And so why am I telling you this? Because you will be turning in that same exact document to the next agency and the next agency. And the only thing that will change is updates. Update to your employment history, update to your references, update to maybe you had a traffic accident, you need to adjust that. Maybe you got a speeding ticket and you need to put that on the citation section. But once you update that form, again, you make a copy. It's a living document, and you got to constantly make sure that it's updated. Why am I spending, why am I really